morning. I know that it's been a long time coming for an update from us, so I appreciate your patience this semester. Before I get really into it, I've got one person on video. If I could just get a thumbs up on the audio. And you can see the first slide of the screen. So the video is working. Awesome. Okay. Well, as we go through the meeting, if anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself and add to the conversation. You can unlock your video capability if you'd like to do that as well. I made sure to spend a little extra time in front of the mirror this morning as I use my video. So, however, as we move forward, I'm sorry, we just had a little technical difficulty. We are recording this, so if you have to jump off for something, I know your schedules are crazy busy right now. Feel free to do that. We will be sending out a recording. That would be the first time that we've done that. So we're not sure of the quality of that, but we do have that capability to record this. We are recording today. And so just know that going forward. I'm excited about our agenda today. You know, not very much for me, which is a good thing. I'm a poor substitute for Kirk Haskins, who has moved on into the private sector, and we are going to be hiring a business ed consultant. So if you know of anybody that would be interested in a position like that, feel free to let us know. And we are willing to wait for the right person. And a lot of times that person is a business ed teacher. So just know that going forward. We're excited to have Dr. Scott Jones with us this morning to talk about the marketing pathway, MBA research from Brenda Clark, and then finishing with Dr. Dan Dines with the Accounting Bridge Pilot Program, and he's at K-State. So we've got a packed agenda. We're very excited to bring those people to you this morning virtually, and those specific topics were selected by you, the business educators across Kansas, as the most important topics that they wanted to hear about. So we're happy that Scott, Brenda, and Dan have agreed to join us this morning, and we're excited to hear from them this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in with a CTE update and start off with the fun stuff, educational legislation. Many of you have heard this week that the president signed into law a new, basically reauthorized the Education or Elementary and Secondary Education Act. It's entitled Every Student Succeeds, ESSA, and we feel like that fits very well with our new vision in Kansas, which is Kansas will lead the world in the success of each student. So it was good news to hear that was signed into law this week. The House and Senate approved it. The President signed it. So goodbye to No Child Left Behind and hello to ESSA. And at the end of each of these segments, we'll have a little time for question and answer. So feel free to use that time to unmute and ask questions, or there is a chat function. Maybe I forgot to mention that, but there is a chat function that you can use that I'll be monitoring while the other speakers are presenting this morning. Many of you know this. In our last legislative session, hang on one second. Okay. Our last legislative session in Kansas, that block grants were moved in place of our age-old, since 1992, our funding formula. So block grant is a stop. Those are stopgaps until for this year and for next year. And so the legislature they've already started discussing K-12 funding this session, and then next session is when we think they will come up with a new funding formula. During that time, this year and for next year, we're under a block grant system We've been suggesting to schools to stay the course with their CTE funding. Don't make any drastic changes in how you utilize 0.5 funding before, because you never know what the new funding formula is going to look like. That CTE funding has not gone away. It's still in the block grant. However, it is not specifically earmarked to be spent on CTE. It's a block grant, and all weightings are involved in that, and all earmarks are removed from those dollars. So, but we have encouraged schools to stay the course with their CTE funding now that it's in a block grant. And we are excited that we've already started a piloting a funding survey to schools. We'll have a meeting in January to get that work underway, to look at a new CTE funding model so that we can make our ask of the legislature, so they know what we are asking as far as what's a fair and equitable funding model for CTE in Kansas.
2 years.
So staying with funding, CTE funding in Kansas, we know we've got two funding streams: the state funding, which was referred to as 0.5. It's still in the block grant. Schools use it for professional development, specialized equipment, teaching resources.
Yeah.
And then also the Perkins grants. So those are the federal grant dollars. Many of you are familiar with those. And there are more restrictions on those dollars to be on what they can be spent on. But schools generally use those for professional development, for specialized equipment. It must be, those funds must be used for improvement of existing programs, not sustaining or maintaining programs. And we also have, in the last couple of years, used our reserve Perkins grants, which are competitive grants throughout the state, providing different workshops and equipment for schools that apply for those. So we're excited to continue those Perkins Reserve Grant, that model this year. And a lot of schools have taken advantage of those opportunities. Okay, so a little bit specific to KSDE, CTE. We had great growth from last year to this year in the number of state-approved pathways, nearly 300, an increase of nearly 300, and that's, I do like to say that's a testament to the persistence and the determination of educators across Kansas in putting in programs that they know are beneficial for kids, despite there are no new $0.5 for those new pathways under a block grant for this year. So we're very excited to see that increase, and we hope to see that continue as we move forward in Kansas. Just some foundational reminders. Please ensure that you're on our listservs. Make sure that we're not blocked. I know some of you would like to do that, but we're not blocked at the local level. Make sure you refer to our calendar on our website, and we are revamping our website right now, at least our CTE main page, to just have one link in the middle of that page that takes you to a table of contents, basically a directory to find all things CTE. So we're excited to roll that out at least by the beginning of the new year. Some other updates, and these can all be found on our website. The 16-17 Career Pathway Guide has been posted for a couple of months now. We are encouraging all pathway teachers to align their programs, their pathways with assessments or certificates if they exist. Some pathways, like I think government and public administration, really doesn't have a certificate or an end of pathway assessment. But if there are end of pathway assessments or certifications that are out there, we're encouraging pathway teachers to align their pathways with those. And if not, your default is the competency profiles. But we all know that assessments, third-party assessments and certifications speak much more and are much more valuable to our students than those competency profiles. The Professional Learning Experience Toolkit has been updated, and has been online for a couple of months now. We are changing our CTE student categories beginning with the 16-17 school year. So this change will start next year. This year, our student categories remain the same. But for the 16-17 school year, we are changing a participant who previously, this year, is a student who earns 1 credit of CTE. A participant starting in 16-17 will be any student that has earned half a credit. We made that change mainly due to a lot of our intro courses are indeed semester courses, but we wanted to reflect what's happening in our schools more accurately, and capture that data. A concentrator right now is a student who completes a pathway with 3 credits. A concentrator would move back to 2 credits. Any combination of 2 levels in the same pathway, again, this would start in 16-17, and those would be students who are majoring in a pathway, not necessarily completed it, but they are concentrating in it at the high school level. Those 2, the participants and the concentrators, we have to report to as far as to the federal government for Perkins Federal Accountability. So in 16-17, you will continue to report participants and concentrators. However, the definitions for those will have changed. A completer is a new category that basically is a concentrator now. So in 16-17, instead of calling them concentrators, students who complete a pathway will be completers, and it's the same definition as our current concentrator definition. And I didn't put this on this slide, but we're very excited to start working on a new CTE recognition program. We're calling it the Kansas CTE Scholar recognition system. And there may be some people part of this call that are part of that group, and we're putting that together this year, and we'll roll that out for 16-17. We're excited about that, the Kansas CTE Scholar program. Double up and nesting courses, we've relaxed a lot of the restrictions on that in that policy from before. Now, basically, you can double up any 2 courses within the same pathway, the cluster, or across clusters if those 2 courses are taught in the same physical space and the teacher has the licensure to teach both. And nesting, and there's no prior approval process for double ups. You can do those without prior authorization. And the nesting is any 3 courses taught in the same class at the same time, and those still require consultant authorization prior to that situation being in place. Just real quickly before I move to Dr. Scott Jones, we have made a few changes to our pathway application. I think everybody will be happy with those changes. There will be a change, no change section, check boxes basically at the bottom of each section. So if there were no changes, if it's just a maintenance pathway application, if there were no changes made, you can simply check no change and move on to the next section. Basically, all of the information put into those applications last year will pre-populate into your pathway application for this year. I know some of you have already been in there working on pathway apps. This is just a look at that summary of change, no change at the bottom in the green. That's what you will see in your pathway application. And if you have any questions about pathway applications, Angie Fye, Kelly Byrne, Martin Coleman, they do a phenomenal job of helping people, and they are going to start training in January or February. Some of those may be webinars, maybe face-to-face, but those trainings will start at the beginning of the new year. And again, if you have any questions with the Pathways application or Pathways student data reporting, please contact the Pathways Help Desk. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Scott Jones. He has graciously agreed to be on this morning and share a little bit about the marketing pathway that's undergone some changes. Dr. Jones is out at Fort Hays State, and he's been an integral partner in all things business education, so we appreciate his time this morning. And so, Dr. Jones, if you're on, if you could, I think I hear you on.
Okay, good deal. Actually, Jay, you gave me a promotion. I don't have the big DR yet. So
Well, I'm just going to leave it on there. Is that all right?
that's all right. That's fine. I appreciate the promotion. So
Bet.
with what's going on with marketing, I'm going to refer to what we're leading into as Marketing 3.0 for Kansas, because it's kind of our third iteration of what a marketing curriculum looks like at the secondary level. And I'm going to jump back just a little bit in terms of our history to understand kind of how we got where we're at, and it relates to some of the stuff that Kirk and I talked about as he was going through the development of this third process. I'm going to have to change screens here so I can look at my stuff. All right. So back during the VE2 days, we had kind of a cafeteria plan where people could choose to an extent what they wanted. And we tended to have a Marketing 1 course, a Marketing 2 course, and then some type of on-the-job training, marketing internship, whatever it might have been called, where a student would spend a significant part of their day, probably half their day, in a local business, and the quality and experience there would vary tremendously. So when a student walked out of a marketing program at Goodland, that may have looked completely different than what, as far as knowledge and skills that the student gained, completely different than what the student that walked out of Shawnee Mission East, because there wasn't a consistent real plan in terms of what that curriculum would look like across the state. So then in about 2008, we were watching the development of career pathways, and marketing was a significant part of that. And we put together, I thought was a pretty innovative plan. I was really excited about our plan. We had the 3-strand approach, which is what you're currently using right now. It was a neat deal, but probably a little bit hard for some folks to understand all the different pieces that fell into it and all the different courses that could or could not be included as supporting and maybe elective. And at the time, we were trying to push entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship was being woven through the finance pathway as well as the business administration and management pathway. And so we had something that looked really neat and was consistent across the state. And like I said, I was very proud of it. And then it was time to review. And so Kirk brought in his business and industry folks. That was the first step in this process. And he brought in the business and industry folks, and they looked at where we're at, and they have all kinds of questions. How did this happen? Why did this happen? What's the outcome here? What's the goal here? And so that was kind of an interesting process for Kirk to work through, because he hadn't been involved. He wasn't with the agency at the time that original marketing pathway was developed. And from that, kind of emerged and evolved into a new look for Kansas marketing education. And so Kirk unveiled this draft of the path from what he had gathered from business and industry folks. And it looked a little bit different than what we'd had. It still had a year-long marketing course, but the curriculum was different than what we had been using in the past. It still had a business essentials course, which is pretty much the same. It had not changed much. The entrepreneurship course was no longer a required piece. And that application level course, instead of having 3 options, it went back to 1 course as the marketing application course. But there's some flexibility in that curriculum to kind of develop at the local level and what you want that to look like. So what we emerged with was a half-credit business essentials introductory level course, which is, like I said, the same that we had had. At the technical level, a full year of marketing, and then also at the technical level, a 1 semester 0.5 credit in business communication. Now, Kirk and I had lots of discussion back and forth about business communication and what that would really look like. The business communication curriculum that's been around is probably a little bit tired, highly focused, maybe on letters and memos, and that's a good thing, and those things need to be included, but we probably need to go further. And we're going to have to look at composition and at expressing ideas versus just typing, because there's been some instances where we have a lot of typing going on in business communication, but not necessarily truly developing ideas and expressing ideas and thinking about the customer and those pieces. And my understanding is that business communications course still has not been developed. So that's one of the things kind of on the burner that the new person, probably with Jay's assistance, is going to have to take on, is what does business communications really look like for the next decade? And then, again, that marketing applications at the year-long level, at the application level. So this was different. And when we changed from VE2 to the marketing version 2 in about 2008, we had a lot of people that thought we were killing marketing because we weren't having the OJT experience. It didn't look the way it had looked in the past. We couldn't use keyboarding as an introductory level course. People were really upset. And they thought, like I said, they thought we were killing it. And we convinced them that we weren't. And we went from about 45 marketing programs prior to 2008 to over 90 or 91 now, I think, were the latest number. So we doubled. And we knew it was going to work. We knew it was the right thing. When Kirk rolled out this newest design, I had the same reaction that people had with me in 2008. I thought, you're going to kill marketing. We have a great thing. Why are you messing with it? And Kirk and I spent a lot of time talking back and forth about where he was at and why it had evolved the way that it evolved, and about the discussions that they had with business and industry. Jay knows that when I get started talking, I just keep talking and run out of.
It's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, and so, Kirk threw back at me exactly what I had thrown back at people in 2008, and it's an evolutionary process, and it's time for change. We've had something for a while, and it's worked, but we can be better. And as we talked about the pieces and how those pieces were going to look, he started talking about MBA research. And if you're not familiar with the work that MBA research does, you want to become familiar with them because they are incredible folks. And I noticed that Jay's got Brenda Clark coming in after me, I think.
Yes.
Okay. So Brenda's going to talk about MBA research and about the assessment piece. And I can't say enough about MBA research. And at that point, when Kirk started telling me that MBA research curriculum was going to be involved in this new process, I had to kind of back off, had to take a deep breath, had to say, okay, you're probably right. Because MBA research, I'm doing a little plug for them now, because MBA research spends so much time with business and industry folks, that's just a major piece of what they do. Jim Gleason is beyond fabulous and works really hard at making sure that the curriculum that he develops and the stuff that goes out to classrooms is industry validated. And that's been our whole goal, is to make sure that what we're doing at the secondary level is helping these kids get ready for either college entrance or entrance into a career, and hopefully both eventually, some type of post-secondary education. Again, I'm sorry. And with MBA research being involved, I just couldn't argue anymore. I had to give Kirk the benefit of the doubt. And the more I've thought about it, and the more I've looked at the competency profiles, and if you haven't looked at them, they are available on the KSDE website. We have the current stuff for the 15-16 school year, and then he has the stuff for the 16-17 school year, which would be the new design that's available. It does make sense, and I think it's going to be good stuff moving forward. The other thing, and Brenda's going to talk about it, is that the new curriculum will be aligned with the opportunity to have an end of program assessment. And I think that's huge, to have the same folks developing the assessment that's developing the curriculum. Probably puts us in a really good spot in Kansas in terms of having that consistency and having that alignment, so that our kids are really being measured on what they should be measured on and not on somebody else's interpretation. Jay, I don't know that I have anything else to say.
Well, I think it'd be, the one thing, and Kirk did a great job of keeping me informed of the changes that were going on and taking place with marketing. But one of the biggest, I think, implications of what you said was about the MBA research assessment. Because if we don't move towards third-party assessments, I think we're doing a disservice to our students. If they don't come out of these well-developed marketing pathways with some sort of, I don't want to call it a credential because it's not really a credential, but some sort of validation, third-party validation of what they know and can do, that strengthens that student's ability to move on into college, into post-secondary, into the workplace. So I think that's out of all those things that you mentioned, to me, that's the most important part.
And Jay, can you tell us what's happened with the CPAS and the marketing piece of the CPAS?
Yeah, really the one that the finance assessment is the one that's being developed. So we really haven't talked much about marketing because we know MBA research is in that space. But having said that, MBA research also has a finance assessment. But those are all under development. Those will be options for schools. Some schools may not want to go with MBA research, and that's a local decision. The CPAS assessments are a third-party assessment. They are put together by basically the same folks that get together to revise our pathways. And so, those are state assessments. Well, I don't want to call them state assessments, but they are state-driven assessments. Colorado, Mississippi are also part of that consortium. But those are basically, they will be options.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it possible then that, and again, this was all kind of initial discussion with Kirk before he left, so I'm not sure where things ended up. But is it possible that in Kansas we'll use the MBA assessment rather than the CPAS for marketing?
That's an option now.
Okay, that is an option now. Well, there's not a CPAS for marketing, right?
What we're doing, Scott, is we're putting together a list on a state level of every pathway that we have, and then listing all the third-party assessments that are out there. So for marketing, you would have a CPAS assessment, but you would also have MBA research. You might have other assessments as they pop up. I mean, the whole assessment space by companies like MBA research has really taken off. So, you could expect others to jump into that space. But and we're happy to we just want to make sure people know the options that they have out there, and then they can make that decision at their level as to the assessment that best fits their program.
Okay, so there's not going to be a single required assessment for marketing.
No.
Okay.
No.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask you, and I would guess that other people would be interested in, is in the application level, you have a course, or Kirk had a course called Marketing Workplace Experience. Do you have any feel at this point of what that course might look like, or what that credit might look like?
The only thing, Marketing Workplace Experience, we have other courses and other pathways that are titled like that. And it's basically just that course is based on work-based learning experiences, professional learning experiences. The kids are actually out there doing it, either on-site in the school. I know we have a lot of great marketing, professional learning experiences happening in the school, but then also off-site. That basically, those capstone application level courses, anytime it says work experience, it's basically an internship or a job shadow experience for students in those related occupations like marketing.
Okay, so for the credit that's labeled Marketing Workplace Experience, that's a optional school choice in terms of whether or not they want to implement that or not. But the required application level course, Marketing Applications, there would be an expectation that there is some type of professional learning experience integrated into that credit as well. Is that correct?
Well, it depends on what level that course is at.
It was application level.
Yeah, if it's an application level course, then it is a requirement of that course to include professional learning experiences for the students.
Okay.
Now, that may be, for some, that may be a 1-week intensive internship that happens during the semester. It may be a prolonged internship over a whole semester. It may be 2 weeks. It may be 3. But it's just that meets the requirements or the competencies for that course, as long as the students are actually in a simulated environment work experience related to that pathway and the occupations of that related to that pathway. That's a requirement for all the application level courses.
I just wanted to throw that out as a clarification, because I didn't want somebody to think that they had to incorporate the workplace experience half credit, or that replaced that expectation that professional learning experience would be tied into the required application level course.
Right. Yeah, we know that with our new vision for education in Kansas, one of our state level outcomes, well, our new state level outcomes, which we have time this morning, I'll get to those. To really pull this new vision in Kansas off, for Kansas to lead the world in the success of each student, we've got to set up, and in CTE, we have a lot of bright spot relationships out there between education and business, but we've really got to scale an internship job shadow program across the state. We've got to set up key relationships with local business and industry and schools so that our students can, more students that are part of Pathways can have an authentic, well-developed professional learning experience before they leave high school. We just think that's a key to preparing students for life after high school. We've got, like I said, it's not like it's not going on now, but it's pockets of excellence. And we need to make sure we build it out across the state.
What questions do we have from folks related to marketing? Anybody want to ask a question?
The only question that I've had come through the chat is, will MBA materials be discounted or made directly available to those with an approved marketing pathway? I think that's already the case.
It is.
We have signed, we have got a relationship with MBA Research. We pay a state membership already, and through that state membership, those materials, curriculum resources, etc., are discounted already. Are there other questions about the marketing pathway? I know it's definitely one of the hot topics that people responded with.
At Marla, I'm wondering if, Marla's in Wichita, and I'm recognizing her login. Marla, what are you hearing from your Wichita teachers about the new design? She's going to be shy.
Well, maybe Marla will jump on here in a second, but I have a question from HHS. Can Perkins funds be used to help purchase the assessments? You cannot use, I would say yes. Perkins funds cannot be spent directly on students, but if you're buying a wholesale package of assessments for your students, Perkins funds can be used to help offset the cost of those. That's off the top of my head. I need to probably check with Martin Coleman, our Perkins expert, to make sure that's correct. But I do know of schools using Perkins dollars to purchase either assessments. I know some that use Perkins dollars for the CUTR for the Kansas Career Pipeline. So that's serving students. So I think that as long as it's a package, multiple assessments, you're not buying one assessment for one student, but multiple assessments, I think that is an allowable Perkins expenditure.
I guess I have another question for you, Jay.
Sure.
On the courses that are not yet developed and redeveloped in the marketing pathway, will that not happen until the new marketing EPC is hired?
More than likely, yes. It's a difficult question because we would like to fill Kirk's position right now.
Right.
We also know that, the people that would be best suited for that position might just be those who are teaching business ed in Kansas right now. And by no means are we ever going to ask somebody to break a contract and come to KSDE in the middle of the year. That's not good business. So again, we're willing to wait for the right person. We just got a yes from someone yesterday for RJ Dake's former position, and that person won't start until July because they are a teacher. So everything is on hold right now. Scott, it's a really good question. But I will say, you know, we make a wholesale change on these pathways every 5 years, but every year we're looking at those small tweaks that need to be made. So we probably won't be getting together and organizing a marketing review group this year. But by all means, those marketing teachers out there, if you have questions, comments, Scott, if you have them, suggestions for revising those courses, making those small tweaks, we need to know those. And so it's, you know, it's always good to look at those and constantly be revising them. Scott, I think you're muted. Hang on.
I am. All right.
Yep.
So with the new design, Jay, that in theory should go into effect in the 16-17 school year.
That's correct.
Then what's a school district supposed to do about the courses that are not yet designed? Kind of go on their own for a year in terms of course content, or how would that work?
Well, I know that the courses that we already had quite a few questions early in this semester because schools were already ramping up for 16-17. They have to take the competencies, the courses before the Board of Education, and that process started. So I felt like we've answered all those questions. We've got the competencies out there for the courses that people are adding. So those that may be partially on the pathway design sheet that need to be more fully developed, there won't be work towards those this year. So schools are able to go ahead and add those into their pathway. Now, another thing to remember is that just because you put in a pathway application this year for 16-17 for a marketing pathway and you say you're going to offer these courses, you don't actually have to offer every course that's in that pathway every year. So some schools are going to go ahead and apply this year for 16-17 for a marketing pathway, knowing full well that one of those courses, they want to offer it, but the competencies are not finished. So they're going to go ahead and put it in as that's the course they're going to offer, but only offer it when it's fully ready. And that's completely fine. So it's a work in progress. We want to make sure we get it done right. We don't want to rush through something and put something in place that's not full quality.
Okay.
Good question. We've got a couple others. Scott, if you don't mind.
No, go.
Is the business communications course required in the marketing pathway? And I don't have the sheet up in front of me right now.
It is required.
It is required. Okay.
It's a minimum of a 0.5 credit.
Now, is that the intro or the technical level course?
That's technical level.
Okay. So business communications course is required for the marketing pathway.
Correct.
Could you speak to that maybe a little bit, Scott, about the reasoning, about the rationale behind requiring that course?
The business and industry response that Kirk got was that one of the major things they wanted to see from high school students and from that age is a more further developed skill set related to communications. And that was kind of an overwhelming deal. It was a little bit surprising because we thought that we had been integrating communications in across the board, but that was a pretty strong statement that they were sending Kirk, that they wanted to see that. And so as things developed, it was included.
Okay, we'll have to look at that, Scott, because I've got a response in the chat that says, no, it's not required.
Okay.
I knew one of those courses, though, at the technical level was required, but I thought it was marketing. It had a marketing title in it.
I'm looking at, I wish I had a date. I'm looking at the stuff that you sent me from Kirk yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And I'm on page, this won't matter to any of the rest of you, but for Jay, it was page 20 of what I'm looking at.
Okay.
Required.
Well, we'll take a look at that. I know that there was one that the technical level was required. But I don't know if it was business communications or not. One other question, Scott, will other pathways be considered when rewriting the courses? For example, with business communication competencies, they need to be reviewed, but will it be only a marketing influence or will it also be applicable to the other pathways? The answer is it's going to be applicable to all pathways that course lies in. So, however, the other pathways that it lies in, there may be, I could see where business communications is a broad enough course where it would pull in all those different influences across pathways. So it wouldn't just be with a marketing influence. It would be applicable to the other pathways.
Right.
Great question. Marla just figured out the system. She said Wichita is now working with teachers to compare the standards. This summer we will work on adopting the principles of marketing, and then the marketing applications will take our focus first for implementation in 16-17. Makes sense. And then they will add business communications. Principles of marketing and business communications are required in tech. That's what we have from Marla. And Blue Valley is saying it's marketing principles. It's the one that is required. And that seems to be on point. I think I seem to remember that. Yeah, it is too late to make a change in the game now. So whatever is on our website, that is what's in place. So looks like business communications is recommended but not required. Thank you to everybody helping us with finding the answer to that one. Are there other questions for Scott about the marketing pathway? Well, Scott, you've stunned them. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time this morning. If you can stay on, we'd love to have you stay on, but we understand your schedule and appreciate the time you've given us this morning. So,
sure.
And appreciate your continued partnering, especially at Fort Hays State. Having post-secondary partners is crucial for us to pull this off. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I did just pull up and I found the same thing that Blue Valley was reporting from your website on the PDF version of the 16-17 marketing design. It included business communications as not required, but strongly recommended.
Excellent. Okay. So we are moving on to Brenda Clark. She is with MBA Research. She's going to provide an overview of what MBA Research does and then specifically to the marketing assessment. Brenda is their PD director at MBA Research, and I know we've had a lengthy relationship with MBA Research and really appreciate the work that they've done in Kansas. I also want to, before Brenda jumps on here, she is offering 3 sessions at the annual February conference in Manhattan, February 9th and 10th. I'm not sure which days Brenda is offering those sessions, but I know that the conference is February 9th and 10th in Manhattan. So 3 different sessions. And then I know that she's also offering a full day session on February 11th, I believe, in Wichita. So I want to thank Brenda for being on this morning and also for her work in Kansas. So Brenda, are you on?
I am on.
Great.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. I'm going to go ahead and pull up your slides, Brenda, as you start into the conversation.
Okay, well, thank you so much. My name is Brenda Clark. I am the professional director, director of professional development for MBA research, but more importantly, I just retired after teaching 33 years. My degree and most of my teaching has been in the field of marketing, but I also taught business and finance. So my conversation to you today is really going to be teacher focused and from my experience as a teacher in the classroom. Everything that we're going to talk about today can be found on our website. So if you'll go ahead and advance that slide.
Sure. There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so I made it, excuse me, I made one slight change. So everything that you're going to see today is going to be on our website, mbaresearch.org. And if you don't already have it bookmarked, you're going to want to do that because we have so many free resources that are available to you. And MBA Research, our mission really is to support you in the classroom. And it's one of the reasons I got involved with MBA Research early on in my career. Because our mission really is to help you deliver the content and knowledge to your students so that we're preparing students to enter the field of work. 27 states, yep, go ahead and click up one more. 27 member states, and as Jay mentioned, you are one of our wonderful members. What that means is that we are owned by state departments of education. And those state departments of education really guide our work on behalf of all of you in the classroom. And so go ahead and move that forward. So here's our website, and on this website, because Kansas is a member state, I'm going to be sharing with you in a little bit a whole bunch of free resources that you have access to, but also show you a couple of things that are free to anyone in any state across the country. All right, so our instructional system is based on really 5 key things. And the first is business. Everything we do stems from the business world. All of our standards are developed based on business input. So we do focus groups, we do online surveys, we talk one-on-one with business people, we read white papers, but as we're developing our standards, we are engaging only with business and industry to help us determine what it is our students need to know in order to be successful, whether they're leading secondary or post-secondary programs. And from that business, we develop our standards. So we have a set of national standards that are found on our website, and those are free, and anyone can access those at any time. In our standards, so when I first started teaching many years ago, I had access to those same standards. Obviously, they've changed over time, but I had to develop my own curriculum. I had to create my own courses using those standards. Since then, MBA research based on input from state departments of education, but more importantly from you as teachers in the classroom, we're looking for courses that had already been designed. So we have taken those standards and broken them down into numerous courses. I was on this Zoom for a little while with Dr. Jones, so I understand you already have some courses that you are teaching in your pathways, but we also have courses and course guides that are available to instructors, and those course guides are free. I'm going to show you where those are. They include not only information about the structure of the course, but the standards taught in the course, and then a day-by-day lesson plan starter for a semester or for a year, completely laid out with projects and assessments, and those are all free to you. So even if you already have courses that you're delivering, you may want to use some of the information from our course guides in terms of our lesson plan starters and our projects that you could incorporate into your own courses. And then from that curriculum, we've developed instruction, and For some of you that are familiar with MBA research, you probably thought about our LAPs right away. For those of you that aren't familiar with our research, we have developed LAPs or modules. I call them a lesson plan to support one topic or one performance indicator. Very in-depth. It's all-inclusive. If you're interested and you're not aware of our LAPs, and if you're interested in getting one of our LAPs, I'll share some information at the end of this presentation so that you could order one so that you could see it for yourself. And then last is the proof, which is where we're going to spend some of our time today is looking at that proof. So proof in terms of how do we know that our students are learning what they need to know. So we offer lots of different ways to get at that information. One is through our assessments that are found in our modules or our labs. Each of those has assessments, both standards-based, and then we have projects and rubrics and other ways of accessing that proof. We have end-of-course assessments. So at the end of courses that we've developed, we have assessments tied to that. And then we have end-of-program assessments. And those end-of-program assessments include marketing, entrepreneurship, finance, and business administration. And then our capstone proof is our ASK certification. It's a third-party certification that allows your students to, if they pass that certification level, it's a pretty high standards, high stakes test, would allow your students to earn a certification through ASK. Go ahead.
Oops.
Yep, thank you. Oh, I think we went backwards. There we go. So a minute ago, let's go back just one there, if you would, Jay. Okay, thank you. A minute ago, I told you that we have a lot of free resources that are available to you to help in delivery of your courses, but also to help with preparing students for their assessment as well. And that's the States Connection. So if you were to go out to mbaresearch.org, out to our website, and look under quick links, you'll see a link for State Connection. And go ahead and click on that forward there, Jay. At that States Connection, if you already have a login, you can just go ahead and log in. If you don't have a login, you can create an account, and you'll see that third bullet there on the left down towards the bottom, create an account. Just going to give us your name, what state you're in, and you'll create your own username and your own password. It'll take about 24 hours in order for you to actually log into the system because back at our office we need to make sure that you're in one of our member states. So States Connection is one huge benefit of Kansas belonging to MBA Research. So go ahead and click forward. Okay, so what's in MBA or what's in States Connection? This is kind of what it's going to look like for you once you log in. So go ahead and click one more, Jay. And so much, all of this is free, by the way. So all we want you to do is to register, and then you're going to have access to the States Connection. We're constantly updating our States Connection, always adding new and free things for you. So action briefs, just want to explain what each of these is very quickly. Back at the beginning of our conversation, I told you that business drives all of our standards. Well, as we're doing focus groups around the country, we are really talking with CEOs, CFOs, top management, owners of pretty significant companies. We're asking them not only about what they do in their jobs, what their employees do, but what the future is going to look like in their industry. And we had all of this amazing information that we were gathering, but didn't have a way to get that out to you in the classroom to use in teaching your students. So began to create about 1.5 years ago these action briefs, which looks at trends in industry. And those are all posted on the website with ideas on how you can use those in the classroom and how those impact students in their workplace. We have programs of study as well, so an entire program of study based on the Perkins requirements are there to use as a model if you're looking to update or to create a program of study. We have course profiles, which outline a course and break it down week by week and include the standards. We now have free course guides as well. So MBA Research about a year ago partnered with another nonprofit called the Daniels Fund out of Colorado. And the Daniels Fund focuses around ethics education and had primarily focused at the post-secondary level. Began to realize and think about that they wanted to deliver ethics education through secondary as well. And through a significant grant provided from the Daniels Fund to MBA Research, we are now releasing all of our course guides for free. So if you were to access and download all of our course guides, that would be about a $900 savings just in the course guides alone. And that's all thanks to the Daniels Fund. They do not want any barriers put out there for teachers who are looking to improve their programs, and they said release them all, so that's what we did. We also have gray zones, so if you are a CTSO advisor, or if you are already wanting to incorporate ethical education into your curriculum or looking for additional ways to incorporate ethical education, the gray zones are case studies. So they're really great preparation for students who are going to have to do any kind of role playing in a CTSO event. But they're all based around ethics, and they're all based on real companies and real issues that have happened. Another thing that's available are bookmarks. I don't know about you, but I often, when I was in the classroom, I'd want to find something different to teach with. I'd want, you know, the lesson plan just had not gone quite perfectly, and so what could I do more of? What could I do better? How could I add to this lesson plan? So I'd go out to the internet looking for, you know, some additional tools or a better lesson plan, a video, a rubric, whatever that might be. And about 2 hours later, I come out of, I call the internet my black hole. I come out a couple hours later, I might have bought some things, I might have found some really good sites, but I might not have found anything that's going to help me with that lesson plan. So once I found on States Connection these bookmarks, these are vetted websites that MBA Research is already using in their research, has used to help build those modules or those labs. Really great websites, and so there's all kinds, literally a couple hundred vetted websites. It will give you a description, tell you if there's activities there, videos, what it's for, what it supports, and then glossary and rubrics available. All of those are free to you as long as you join States Connection. If you are not in a member state, all of these are available for purchase other than the bookmarks and the action briefs. Other states who are not member states actually have to pay for these things. So I tell people there's thousands of dollars in free resources here. Please access those and please use those. And then share with your CTE director and your principals that you're using all of these wonderful materials and resources for free. Does anyone have any questions right now regarding the States Connection or the website before I move into the assessment piece? Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and move on, and then we'll do all of the questions at the end. So MBA Research has a number of options in terms of assessment. Now remember, all of those assessments are tied back to the standards that business and industry says our students need to know in order to be successful. There are 3 levels of assessment that are available in marketing, and some of you may be teaching entrepreneurship as well, so they're also available in entrepreneurship. So there are standard assessments, accelerated, and honors ready. So what's the difference between those? The standard is for your traditional marketing course, and it can be a 2-year program, a 3-year program, or a 4-year program. We have assessments for all 3 of those. But it's for your traditional program. You're probably teaching 1 hour a day or 50 minutes a day. You have, average, if you were to kind of bundle all your students together, you have average type students. You've got some students who are really awesome and really strong academically, and then you have some students who are a little bit more average. Not that they're not great kids, but maybe aren't academically quite as strong. The accelerated option is going to include more standards. It's going to assume that you have pretty high level students overall, or that you have students for a longer period of time. So a 2-year program in a high school at 1 hour a day or 50 minutes a day certainly is not going to be able to cover the amount of material that a 2-hour or a 2-year program in a career center or a tech center is going to be covering when they have 2 or 2.5 hours a day. So depending on how many hours a day you have your students and the length of your program, you may bump up to that accelerated assessment as well. The Honors Ready is our highest level exam assessment outside of the ask, and includes additional standards with the assumption that probably the students taking that are very high level students. So think along the lines of leaning more towards an AP type assessment for the Honors Ready. So go ahead and click there. Okay. So where do you find information about our assessments? Back to our website at mbaresearch.org. Under Assessment Center, you'll see a number of assessment options. The ask that I mentioned a few minutes ago is there. We also offer digital badging. If you are a DECA advisor, I'm going to give you a hint that a whole lot of people don't know. You'll see that, you see where it says CTSO testing? If you were to click there and then click through, you'll end up finding all of the instructional areas in the breakdown by instructional area of how many test items are on each of the different tests for DECA. So that's behind that CTSO testing. If you go in at some point after this session and you have trouble finding it, just shoot me an email and I will take you right to where that information is. But I've been surprised in my new position how few people actually knew the data was there in terms of how those tests are constructed. But our focus really is going to be around program of study exams. So that's the last down here on the bottom under the Assessment Center. So go ahead and click forward. So when you click on programs of study, you're going to get to this screen is where you're going to go. And here's where, if you were to scroll down, you can see at the bottom of your screen right now, you can see that there's a standard marketing 2-credit exam. And then if you were to go further, you'd find the standard. You won't be able to do that because this is just a picture of it, Jay. But if you were on the website, you would find the standard, you would find the accelerated, and you would find the Honors Ready. So what I did was I went ahead and I clicked on the standard marketing 2-credit. So Jay, if you'll go one more screen, this is going to show you what's on that assessment by instructional area. And you can see here that business law has 1% of the questions, so there's one question. Instructional area of economics, pretty significant. Professional development, pretty significant. Selling, pretty significant in terms of the numbers of items on the exam. And this is a 100-question multiple choice exam. So that's what that assessment, so for each of the assessments available for our end of program, you can pull up this blueprint. I call it an assessment blueprint. And it's going to tell you what the percentage breakdown, so as you're preparing your students for the assessment you can help them to focus on what to study and how to prepare, especially if some of this, at the end of the program, you're like, well, you know, I taught economics way back in the first course, and that for many of these students was maybe a year ago or a semester ago, to kind of wrap that back around to help them review for that. So that is what the assessment blueprints will look like. It also helps you to choose the appropriate blueprint for your students. But all of our assessments are 100-question multiple choice, whether they're a standard, an accelerated, or a honors-ready course. So at this point, I think I was supposed to leave my last 10 minutes available. Here's my contact information. So Clark B at mbaresearch.org. If you have, that was a pretty brief overview of MBA research and our assessment options, but I'd be more than happy to talk with you individually or answer your questions even after we're off the session today. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me. So what questions do you have?
If anybody has any questions for Brenda, you could either use the chat or you can take a step in faith and courage and unmute and ask that question. Well, Brenda, I have a few.
Okay.
And maybe it's not a question, it's more of a comment. You know, we have a list now that we've created by each pathway, a list of the certifications or assessments that are out there by pathway. So, and we know it's a big push in Kansas now for further validation of students' knowledge and skills when they complete pathways as they head off into college and career. So what business industry endorses the ASK certification, or do colleges recognize the assessment scores on these assessments that you have?
Okay, so really good question, Jay. There is not an industry recognized certification in our field. There are a number of vendor certifications that are available that are recognized by some companies within our industry. So Mouse certification, for example, is a vendor-based certification. The ASK certification is a third-party certification. And here's what, so I'm going to give you a little bit longer answer because we've done some research with human resource directors and said, what certifications are you recognizing when people come in with marketing degrees or finance degrees or business degrees? So obviously the CPA is a separate conversation, but they say for the most part there's so many certifications out there that they don't have time to know exactly what every certification is. Having said that, they also said that when people come to them with certifications which show exactly what they know and what they've learned, it's documented behind that sheet of paper, that gives them an advantage in the interviews or in getting the interviews. So that's where we tend to speak from, is that, you know, it's a great thing to add to a portfolio. It's a great way to document from a third party your learning so that you're not just going in and saying, I know social media or I've got great communication skills. You can show them the certification in order for them to see that you actually do.
Great. That's exactly what we need to hear as we add, you know, the ASK certification is on our list. MBA research, the marketing assessments, those are on there. And we want to make sure, though, that when we put those on a list, that business and industry and post-secondary are familiar with those assessments and that it does actually work to the advantage of the student if we're going to align our pathways with those assessments. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I'll give you just, you mentioned colleges. So I've had students who've taken that ASK certification, and that doesn't get them into a college. That doesn't guarantee them a scholarship, but I had a student write for a scholarship, and she believes that it impacted her getting that higher level scholarship because she had the documentation behind it. And it forced her to kind of organize her thoughts too. So when she went into the interview and they were asking her questions, it was much easier for her to answer them.
Very good. Brenda, would you like to say anything before we get into Dr. Dines? He's going to talk about our bridge program, AP accounting basically. But before he gets on, is there anything that you'd like to talk about those upcoming trainings that you have at the February conference and then in Wichita on February 11th?
Sure. So I'm going to be expanding on this very short conversation that we've had, but we're going to get our hands into States Connection and play with it and look at how it supports and do some sharing of ideas. We're going to be looking at the LAP modules in the Learning Center that we offer. Again, getting our hands in. It'll be very hands-on workshops. So I hope that you'll be able to join us in one of those two locations. It'll be my first time training in Kansas, so I'm really excited to meet all of you and to see you there. So if it was intriguing, if this little bite was intriguing, I hope that you'll choose one of those to come to in order to learn more about all of the great resources that we have to support you in your teaching.
And one last thing, Brenda, I know we had several teachers across Kansas go to the MBA conclave.
Yes.
And they just came back on fire. And so thank you for that professional development opportunity. We want to support those with our Perkins Reserve grants across the state. And so when we're able to do that and teachers are able to benefit, it's a win-win. So thank you so much for providing that. And we look forward to seeing you in February.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we are going to move now to Dr. Dan Dines. Doctor, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. You please correct me when you jump on here. And there was a lot of interest in the Accounting Bridge Pilot Program. I know that K-State is heavily involved in that, and so we thought what better than Dr. Dan to come on and talk to us today about the Accounting Bridge Pilot Program, an exciting program that's starting in Kansas. So, Dr. Dan, are you on?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic.
How do you pronounce your last name? I'm sorry.
It's Dinus, like dinosaur, old as and looks like.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you for being on.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. That's great.
You bet. So tell us what you know about the Accounting Bridge Pilot Program.
Well, we started this thing probably 8-9 years ago in an attempt to try to get a college-level accounting program that would link real effectively to colleges and universities. So that was our goal, and ultimately our goal was to get the College Board to add accounting to its AP curriculum. So we've been working on that with kind of a hit and miss thing. We feel when we think we're just about there, we're not there, and then when we don't think we're there, we're a little closer than we thought. So let me give you a brief rundown on that. We've met with the College Board over the last 2 years and had discussions with them about doing this, and they've requested a variety of things, and we've provided that information, and we've provided schools and different things that want to participate. And every time we think they're going to make a decision, we haven't, something's gone haywire on the thing, and that's kind of, we're in a kind of a holding pattern right now. The last time we met with the College Board, they'd requested that we have 100 colleges and universities nationwide that would accept AP accounting credit, and we had 120. They wanted 250 450 high school teachers or schools that would teach it. We provided 450. We've got a complete turnkey system that we've been teaching over the last 8 years now. We have trained 900 teachers in 42 states, and it all started here in Kansas. So where we're at right now is the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants in New York is helping with this project and has committed some serious dollars to keeping this thing in moving forward. And we're meeting in January, I think January 4th and January 6th. Glenda Eichmann from Manhattan High is going to meet in New York with, and I'm going, and we're going to meet in Durham, North Carolina, to talk about developing a strategic plan that would include the College Board, but also in the event that they put it, what we would continue to do. And I can tell you the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants is 100% behind this. They say we want to move forward with this, whether or not the College Board agrees to offer the course. That would be our first preference, but they're prepared to move forward in those cases. So in Kansas, the good news is that we have we have a number of state schools that are participating in this project. And to give you an idea of what we do here at K-State, this was our deal with the high schools that got involved with this. If they take our curriculum, our college accounting course in high school, it's a year-long course. If they take it, the students take it, and then they elect to take a qualifying exam, which is modeled after AP. If they take that exam and they get an 85% on this 3-hour exam, if they come to K-State, what we will do is we will give them credit for the first accounting course, and we will let them start the second accounting course as a first semester freshman, which is a huge advantage because that allows the students to spread their curriculum out over the coming years, get the degree, and not be all packed into a small time frame. So it's a big advantage at the university. And the content we have is, our experience is the students who take this course and come to the university thrive because much of what we do, they've already, what they've done in high school, they will be doing again in college in those introductory accounting courses. So they start out with a big head start, and they are really doing well. Here at K-State, we've had a number of students who've done their undergraduate and master's degree and graduated with honors and passed the CPA exam. And I've watched this firsthand, and it really works. They're coming out of Manhattan High and different places, and it's really, really a good program. We also have program, but Fort Hays State models themselves. They're also taking the credit, and just like Kansas State, the same arrangement. Wichita State's doing it. Pittsburgh State's doing it. Emporia State's doing it. Washburn will give the student elective credit if they pass the exam, but they will not give them accounting credit. Mm-hmm. And the University of Kansas is not participating because their first course is a 4-hour course, and they just don't feel comfortable. They don't know that it matches up real well with their program, so they're not participating. And their Tabor College, some of the private schools are involved with this, a number of them. So for students who are out there, what we're trying to do is one of the shortcomings of the traditional high school accounting course is really doesn't match up very well with university intro courses. And so what we really wanted to do was, that's the bridge and the bridge project, is that what we're trying to do is to build a link between the high school teachers and the university, so there's a direct link between the two, and that facilitates the students and their educational growth and gives them a head start when they come to university. Glenda Eichmann at Manhattan High is the first one that has been with this from the get-go. She's seen her enrollments go up dramatically. This last year she had 13, I think 12 or 13 kids take the qualifying exam. All of them passed it, which is amazing given that nationally it's a really hard exam. But nationally the pass rate is about 60%. So we set the bar pretty high. Each school, each university can set their own requirement for entry. At Western Kentucky, if you get a 75%, that's a passing grade. At K-State, the passing grade is 85%, which is really difficult to get to. Well, it's not difficult. It's very doable. You need good students, and they do the stuff. They'll be fine typically. I'll shut up. I'm just running a mouth here. I got to be careful about that.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. I think it's an interesting program, and I think some schools across Kansas know about it. But with any time we're talking about articulated credit for students and allowing them to do something in high school that gains them an advantage in the post-secondary realm, we're all over it. So could you talk to what teachers need? If I'm a business teacher out there and I want to start offering this course, what do I need to do?
Okay. We've offered, over the years, we've offered courses. What we have is a 3-day training program, and students or the teachers come, and when they leave, what we do is teach the stuff they typically don't. We don't teach the debits and credits and the journal entries and stuff like that and how to do those. We know that they know how to do that. And the technical, the technology side, the high school teachers are stunningly good. They are just great because the kids know the spreadsheets and all that stuff. So we don't focus on that much because that's wasting their time. But what we do have is a program where we take the more advanced parts of our course and teach it to the students. So we teach things like break-even analysis. We teach time value of money in very significant depth. We teach bonds and notes and stock, and the bonds and notes are the real big one. We teach that at a junior in college level. That it is very rigorous, and we show the teachers how to teach that. The other thing you should be aware of is that this will scare some teachers because it's not the traditional model. The whole course is based on the assumption that the student ought to understand how businesses work first, and then how the accounting system captures that stuff. And it's not to say we don't ignore accounting, but when we start, we talk about the financial statements and what the story they tell, but we don't worry about the debits and credits right off the bat. And then we talk about how do you plan for your operation. So you need to do break-even analysis, and you need to do budgeting, and those don't require any debits and credits. That's just how do you get yourself started? How do you plan to do that? And then we get, and we don't do any debits and credits till the 7th chapter, which just scares most people to death. Well, how can you teach accounting if you're not talking debits and credits? Well, if you put the debits and credits in context of the business event, then they make a lot more sense to the kids. And we found that over all this time we teach this, the high school teachers say this is a huge advantage because we don't talk about a single thing, accounting entry, until we talk about what the event is going on. So, for example, if you're going to, the example I say is you want to buy a truck. So you buy a truck with a note, okay? Then you go, okay, debit, truck, credit, notes payable. Well, that's great. But in accounting, typically, we never ask, well, why did you buy the truck? And by the way, why did you use the debt when you could have used credit or could have used cash? So we want to answer those questions first. So, for example, we talk about how do you plan for the type of debt you want to use? How do you know which assets to buy and what? And then once you understand why you're borrowing the money and the nature of that process, then we go and say, oh, if you understand how debt works, now let's show you how we do this with notes and how the accounting system captures it. And I think it's much more meaningful as opposed to just rote memory of I've got to do this and this and this and this. I'm not downplaying memorization, but too often what kids do is they make entries and they have no idea why the event took place, nor do they care, but they made the correct entry. So what we're trying to do is put it in a more holistic context. And what you'll see is you'll hear people criticize that and say, well, the kids don't know anything. They can't do accounting. Well, I beg to differ. I will put our students who go through this in terms of the mechanics of debits and credits and financial statements up with anybody. That we've had these kids take this course and go to the University of Illinois and not even open a book because they are so good at it. They write back and tell about how easy the course is at these, the most famous universities in the country for accounting, Illinois, Indiana. They thrive, and they didn't even get credit. They just taken the first course and they're just lighting it up. So I'm very comfortable with that approach, and I think what we do is try to make teachers understand that. So when they leave, they will have a day-by-day, hour-by-hour assignment schedule and a plan. They will have module exams for the 8 modules. We have them on a wiki. They'll have a flash drive that has all the materials we have at the program there. They'll have a textbook. When they leave, it is a jump from where most high school teachers are to this. And like anything, the first time you teach it, it's, you have to kind of wade through it. But after a year, most everybody gets on board and they just see a huge difference in the students and their reaction to it. There's more problem solving that really involves solving problems. And I know the teachers who have taught this have told me that they really enjoy it. It is rigorous, but then what we're trying to do is make sure those kids, when they come to the university, we are not preparing kids for kids that just leave school and want to go to work. This is college prep course that we think really prepares them well. And the teachers who go through the training, they really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. We tease each other a lot. I teach some of the material, but I have high school teachers that come and talk to the teachers about their world. I'm not kidding myself one bit. I've been working on this for almost 10 years. I still have I'm better off letting Glenda or Janie Patterson or somebody, they understand the high school teachers and their concerns, and they can talk to them, and that's a better conversation than if I'm involved with it. So, I talk to them. I'm not a bad person.
Of course not.
Yeah, of course not. But what we really want to do, that's why when we bring a team, it's a team of 3, and it's 3 days, and it's really intense. But when you leave, the teachers will be prepared. We've got plenty of support after that if you teach the class. You have a lot of those things. We have people who know how to answer the questions about how do I get the school board involved, how do I get books, how do I do these things, because we've lived through most of those questions, and we can help support that.
Dr. Dinas, there's been a couple questions through the chat line about trainings.
Yeah.
Do you have a schedule or access to one that we could send out to everybody?
Yeah, well, we're typically, this year we came out with a new edition of the book, and we've got some work to do here and before that happens. And then once again, I'm in kind of holding my own here for till we get back from North Carolina and to talk about that. But we'll know specifically the dates here probably in January. I know that's late for a lot of people, but right now we haven't set a date. I have no problem. We'll get it done because whether the College Board does this or not, I do know the Kansas Society of CPAs and the AICPA all are in favor of this, and they want to see it happen. So, and as long as I'm here, and Kansas State University is going to be kind of the center for this right now, and we'll continue to do that, and give the qualifying exams, grade them, let people know what their scores on. So teachers in the state of Kansas, we can train them, and we'll find a date and we'll make it happen.
Okay. Typically in the past, have those dates been in the spring and the summer?
We've done them in the summer, typically thinking the student or the teachers can come in, but we've done them in the fall. We've done them at the NBA meeting in the spring. most of the biggest thing is just when the teachers want to do it. It's we don't know whether it's good to do it during the semester, whether that takes away from them. We can do it in the fall semester. We can do it in the spring semester. It's more of a demand thing than it is us telling them when they're coming down from the mountain saying, now we will be here. You may join us. We try to figure out what works best for the teachers in Kansas.
Sure. Well, any information that you have, setting dates, training dates, if you could share that with us.
Sure.
June is great. Springtime June is starting to fill up, but it's starting to become a month that a lot of schools look to provide professional development, especially deep dive professional development like this would be. Mm-hmm. So if anything like that you have with that information, Dr. Dynas, if you could share that with us, I'll make sure to send that out across our listservs.
Well, we will typically the ones we've done a couple here in Manhattan. We've done, I think, 3 in Wichita. We did one out in Garden City last year, and they've always been in the first half of June. We found that to be the best time. For a lot of the schools around the country, they don't get out until like June 15th. So typically we look at first, I got to get out of school, and then Janie and Glenda, they need a little R&R, and then they're back at it. So usually the first part of June is when we decide. I think you can be assured we could do something like that this year. I just need to, I haven't sat down and look at it yet.
And we just got a chat comment that this would be a great Perkins Reserve Grant opportunity, and I completely agree. So thank you for sharing that. You spoke a little bit about this. We're calling it AP accounting, but it's not really.
No, we can't. We can't use the term AP. Okay. That's why we call it the Accounting Pilot and Bridge Project.
Okay.
And we're going to probably just change the name. When we started, the idea was when we first talked to the College Board, they said, well, you can't use our name, but but you need to pilot this thing to see if there's a real interest. Well, lo and behold, we found out there's a big interest nationwide in this. So we called it the Accounting Pilot and Bridge Project. And I think what we're going to do now is we're going to just drop the pilot. There's no need to pilot anymore. The thing is rigorous. It's complete. We've tested it. We're probably just going to start changing the name. It's not piloting anything anymore. Uh-huh. It's just going to be the Bridge Project. Because that's the goal. Whether the College Board does it or the American Institute of CPAs does it, we want to create a nationwide program that links high schools to universities. And like we've got 7 schools in Alabama, University of Alabama, Auburn. We've got UMKC is involved. We've just got in Minnesota State. And we're picking up schools around the country. We're working on North Texas and University of North Texas, University of Houston. We've got about 25 schools around the country who accept be involved with this project. Probably one of the most prestigious one is Bentley University in Massachusetts, which is one of the top 10 accounting programs in the United States. It's really, and they're given credit for it. So we think it's we're picking up schools all the time. So it's not just a Kansas phenomenon. If you have kids that want to go to another school, we've arranged to, I call up those schools and ask, would you give credit? And a lot of times they'll say yes. Sometimes they say no, but we work around that as best possible.
Well, we really appreciate you telling the story, and it's a great story. And a lot of times that we get insulated in the state of Kansas, and we talk only about our students that they complete pathways, and then what kind of credit and advantage do they have in Kansas post-secondary institutions. But to hear that it started in Kansas and now all these other colleges across the United States are jumping in, it's really good. It's great. It's great news for Kansas, and it's great work that you've done there. We really appreciate it, and it's great benefits, added value to our students in accounting. So thank you so much.
Well, I will tell you one of the reasons this is getting so much support from the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. I mean, I think a number of your teachers have used start here, go places. And I served on on committees with the American Institute of CPAs. They're behind this, and the reason they're really the market for practicing CPAs is just going to increase dramatically in the next 10 years. They've estimated about 40 to 50% of practicing CPAs are going to retire. And that means, and the supply just isn't there because all the baby boomers are retiring, and this is going to create such an incredible opportunity for kids who go into the profession of accounting. And the reason they really want to do this is the AICPA is because they realize they've got to get a good message down to those talented students, the AP caliber students. Well, if we don't offer a course that links directly to the university and is a college level course, I can speak that in talking with Glenda Eichmann, she's got a full class of this, and she's drawn the kids now that she couldn't touch, 6 years ago. And I think it takes a little time, but once they start seeing the link and seeing the opportunities, it is a great opportunity for high schools to get involved. And I can also tell you that in many places, the CPA firms in the area will come to the high school and start talking to your students because they're trying to target those kids. We have it now. They're talking to kids who are sophomores and freshmen here at K-State, just trying to get them in there. If they knew they had great students well, we've even had them go to Manhattan High, actually. They're going there because they're trying to target those kids earlier and earlier. So it's a great way for those kids to get a really good look at the accounting profession firsthand by the professionals that operate in that business. So, and I think the teachers who do this will find this is a great way to link to their local community, and even to the point where we have had some CPA firms buy the books for the high school because that always is an issue, initial cost. But I'm a big fan of it. I've seen it work, and I just think it's a great opportunity to elevate the status of business education programs in high school.
Dr. Dinas, we did have one question. Is there a cost for the student to take the exam?
Yes, there is. It's the exact same thing as the College Board. It's $86.
Okay.
So what they do is we've got a process. We've got a website, just accountingpilot.com, and that tells you more about that. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, we can get you my email. You can get a hold of me or Glenda Eichmann. We can get you involved with that. But there is a cost because we have to create the exam and I have to grade it and
sure
results back to them. So, and we feel like we want to make sure that the students understand this is it's not okay. And now, I will say this, just like AP, if you have students that are a really good student and they come from a home that just doesn't have that, can't afford it, we'll make arrangements. Okay, we'll facilitate. I don't want to keep any good student from taking that exam because of financial need. That's an issue the teacher just lets me know and we work around that. So it's not hard and fast type thing. So yeah.
And while we're on that, I just want a previous question was, could Perkins dollars be used to pay for exams? I think that if you're paying for exams, if your only expenditure it says is for assessments, the answer is no, you cannot use Perkins dollars. But if the assessments are part of a package of resources, for instance, MBA research or the Accounting Bridge pilot program, if they're resources which involves curriculum and training for teachers, and in that cost there are assessments, then yes, Perkins dollars can be used for those. But you can't list on your Perkins application, we want to use Perkins dollars directly to pay for student assessments. That's an unallowable expense. So I wanted to clear that up for folks. But resources, curriculum, those kinds of things can be, you can use Perkins dollars for those. So just a little sidebar there. Are there other questions for Dr. Dinas?
Yeah, while they're meditating on that, here's one thing I would say is one of the great resources you can have for the schools, almost every high school of a town, even if it's a small place, has got a CPA around there or a CPA firm. And they can be a great benefit going to the school board and lobbying for this course. If the teacher, what we found is if the teacher goes and says, I'd really like to do this, many times the school board is like, well, you're just trying to pad your own nest. But if you have a CPA in the area that will come to the school boards that we really want to have this is really important for our profession, it's important for the kids, it gets a lot more traction. And they will come. I will assure you, they will show up, and they will be strong advocates for this program.
Excellent. Are there any questions for Dr. Dinas?
Sounds like my lectures.
I know. I get this all the time, believe me. Well, if there are none, Dr. Dinas, thank you so much for spending a little time. I know you just had class, so thanks for fitting us in today and for all your leadership with this program that's really going to serve students and has been serving students in Kansas for a while now. So thanks for sharing. Not
a problem. If anybody has any questions, you can just go to the K-State website and get my address, or they probably might have it with you. But we'll do whatever we can to help you out. No doubt about it. We think it's want to facilitate this where we can, and we'd love to have more and more opportunity to get kids in Kansas interested in accounting as a profession. Lots of incredible amounts of career opportunities at all the universities around the state of Kansas. The placement is almost 100% at every school I talk to. Mm-hmm. There's just a huge demand, and it's growing. So it's a great opportunity for the kids. And I would say one other thing, in many cases, if you get involved with this and people come in there, a lot of times that opens the doors to some funding and beyond books and things like that. Say, well, we could sure use a visit to Kansas City or a visit to Speaker or a visit to Hayes to talk with CPAs and that sort of thing. You'd be amazed at the pocketbooks that will open up and the resources that will be available to you. And that linkage, which is exactly what we want. We want to link to the university, and we want to link to the profession, and this is a fantastic way to do it.
Great. And I do have your email address, and I'll make sure the summary of this meeting today will include your email address. So we'll connect you that way. And again, if you have any questions or any information to share about the program, please send it my way, and we'll get it sent out.
Well, when we get back from North Carolina, everybody's asked me what's going to happen. There's going to be a strategic planning meeting at the very top level of the American Institute of CPAs, and I would tell you they're going to commit in excess of $1 million to this project. This is not a kind of nice little project. This is one of their major initiatives at the highest levels, the American Institute of CPAs. So I'm real pleased with that. I wish the College Board would get on board. It would be real easy for them to do. We got all the stuff ready for them, but we'll see. We'll stay positive.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay. You bet. Okay. I would just want to open it up at this point to any questions or comments that maybe the previous speakers have brought to mind, or anything on a general level at KSDE and maybe specifically to CTE. I'll just open it up now for a little question and answer. I do want to share a little bit before we jump off here today. I do want to share a little bit about, I don't know how many have been able to hear about the new vision of education in Kansas, but I want to make sure that everyone hears that. You're going to continue to hear it. You know, when you make a cultural shift like we're attempting here in Kansas, you cannot over-communicate that enough. So on the slides that I've shared, I'm going to skip through some of these, but I did want to mention a few things about the new vision of education in Kansas and how CTE plays an integral role in that happening. Student success in Kansas, we're going to use that term over and over. You know, we've seen this data before, but by 2020, the workforce in Kansas will need, you know, we're 71% of the jobs will require some sort of post-secondary experience, whether that's a certificate or a degree. 36% of those will be a bachelor's degree and higher, and 35% a certificate or an associate's degree. So knowing that, that's the focus for our students is helping them complete either a degree or a certificate or a license or some type of post-secondary program to help them gain an advantage in life after high school. Many of you have probably seen this, our post-secondary evidence for the last several years. And the basic idea on this slide is that we really haven't moved the needle. We focused on state assessments in reading and math, and we've done very well. So that just tells us that in Kansas, when we set a goal, that we will reach that. But some would say that we were chopping down trees in the wrong forest. And you can see that over the last several years, we really haven't moved the needle on students attending college, completing, which is not on here, but retaining in college, retention, which is they're completing 1 year, that's the orange bar, or those that have enrolled in remedial coursework. So these are all impactful measures that we're going to look to change in the future. I'm going to skip this slide. I did want to just make mention of this. I think it's important that the average age of U.S. young adults gaining traction in careers is 30 years old, which is 2 or 3 years into a career. And we're going the wrong way in the United States with that number. It's going up. So why is it taking longer for our students to get into careers? We have log jams and transitions from high school to post-secondary, where K-12 in the past has been heavily focused on academic and abstract content at the expense of allowing our students to really career explore. Post-secondaries to careers is another log jam, and that has more to do with a lack of alignment at times between our post-secondary programs and the demands of the labor market. And that's just an article there. If you have a lot of free time to read, it's about 600 pages long, but the short snippet, pages 77 to 122, is a good read. So we had some community conversations this spring. Dr. Watson led those, and many of you have seen this, but the question was, what are the attributes of a successful 24-year-old? And by and large, you can see that non-academic skills were, and this was across Kansas, were cited as more important, as most important to success, non-academic skills over others. Business was even more slanted towards the non-academic skills. And so we have a definition of college and career readiness in Kansas that impacts those numbers, and these are the things, these are the success measures that we're promoting, is that our students move on from K-12 without the need for remediation in these areas. And I will continue to make mention that every CTE classroom every day hits those 4 areas with our students. So CTE is at the heart of college and career readiness, and will continue to be, and will grow in Kansas with your help, and business and industry and post-secondary, all of us in this together. So completing or experiencing a pathway, it's not all about completing a pathway, it's more about career exploration in high school, will lead to students making a more informed decision regarding careers and the educational path it takes to get there. So that led to our new vision for Kansas. You've heard me say this: Kansas leads the world in success of each student. And the key word there is each. Finding what students are interested in, finding their talents, allowing them to career explore so that they can go off and be successful in life after high school. And so I wanted to hit these real quick. State level outcomes. These will be voted on by our state board in January. And so they've identified these 6 outcomes that will really drive this vision in Kansas. It's still important to graduate high school. We're about 86% across the state right now. This is one that is all over career and technical education, because post-secondary completion attendance, what the state board's been talking about is setting an appropriate measure for this outcome. Post-secondary completion attendance might be a student who completes 12 college credit hours, either during high school or after high school. They achieve 12 credit hours and then they enroll in the second semester. Or it might also be a student who earns a certificate, or a student who earns a license. So those are, and a lot of what I just mentioned there, all of those can be achieved in high school and are being achieved on a consistent basis more than ever before. So we're very in tune, I would say, in CTE with this outcome of post-secondary completion and attendance, and in good shape with that one. Remedial rate of students attending post-secondary. I will tell you that the data for this one is rather dirty. We have, in our system, we're showing that about 30% of our students are enrolling in remedial coursework at the post-secondary level in reading and math. But there's a lot of dirtiness to that data. So, but we need to clean that up. And this one may come out in January, but right now this is part of the board's vision at this point. It's very important for our students to be ready for kindergarten, and creating a standardized rubric for kindergarten readiness across the state lies at the heart of that one. This is big in CTE, an individual plan of study focused on career interests for every high school student. Very important as we move forward. And then social emotional growth, obviously not a state measure, but social emotional growth is very important in our schools for our students to grow in those areas, but that should be measured locally. So those are some outcomes. Dr. Watson he's putting so many miles on state vehicles now. We're going to have to revisit our automotive section and may need to update those, but he's just all across the state, ever present, with a really good message, and we feel lucky to have him here and leading the way. And Kansans Can is our new tagline, that we can lead the world in the success of each student if we all do this jump in together. So that concludes my comments. If there are no, are there any other questions or comments before we sign off for today? Okay, hearing none, I do want to mention that we have recorded this. We'll send out the recording for this. If there was something that was, and I know we covered a lot of ground today. Also, we are saving the chat, so if there were questions in the chat that we didn't get a chance to answer, we will for sure answer those either through the summary email to this or individually. But I appreciate your attention this morning. I know this is a tough time of year to be part of a meeting. I really appreciate your work out there, the real work going on in Kansas in schools. Thank you so much for being in CTE. And if there's anything that we can ever do for you, please contact us here at KSDE. We're here to support you in the work that you do. So thank you so much. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Friday. Take care.